All right, everybody, welcome to a very special episode of Outdoors Podcast, one that has been a long time in the works and one that I'm really excited to have. I've got two really fantastic anglers with me today, and we're going to be talking about boats, or more specifically rafts, and more specifically river rafts. We're joined by Bryan Walker. Bryan is the owner of River Raft USA. And also joining me on the podcast, again, very long overdue, my best fishing buddy, Fish Hands Frank Ciccone, from St. Louis. Thanks so much for joining us. And Frank is a proud owner of a river rat. He's also, I guess I would say, the president, the moderator of the online river rat kind of forum or group, owners group. So kind of in constant contact with hundreds of other owners from around the country. So has a ton of experience with river rat rafts, both himself and other customers. So this is going to be a great conversation. Bryan, let's start here. Kind of give me the steps that led up to you deciding that you wanted to start your own company in this space. What was kind of the genesis of this whole thing?
I wish I had a great story of how it led up to that. It just kind of happened. It's like most things do, or at least most good things. I got into fly fishing, I don't know, 12 years ago maybe. And after coming back and wading a lot, I thought, I need to get on the river. So me and some good friends of mine, we started trying to make boats, and we, tried everything from the single man, float tubes. We followed the gamut that I think all fishermen follow. And we finally got to the point where I was like, man, we need to build something. And I'd seen other rafts, out there that I kind of liked, that I'd been in. And so, we just started messing around and finally landed on, I needed to design, come up with my own design and just build it. I've always had a fab background, as far as fabrication and steel and aluminum work. And so I designed a raft. We got somebody to build it, and we started messing around with frames. And I think it took us about 2 years to finally land on the frame that we're on right now. And, then it just kind of took off from there. Somebody says, hey, build me one, or hey, build me one. And, and it got people talking, and got me talking with people at the docks and stuff. And so it just kind of happened. And so we started, producing a few, and it just has been taken off from there. And it's been a lot of fun, lots and lots of fun.
Brian's the type of guy that if you say, hey, Bryan, you want to go have a burger? He goes, yeah, let's go pick out a cow.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to ask, was there things that you saw specifically that were lacking or that you didn't like? Because there are certainly, other manufacturers of rafts out there. There's other folks that were already making them. Is there something specifically that you thought, you didn't like about theirs that you wanted to put into your own?
I'm a big guy, and I think that's what really spurred me on to doing my own thing, is I'm a big guy, and I don't like feeling like I'm going to fall out, and I don't want to go for a swim in a cold river unless I intend to, or I've been drinking too much, and so that was probably the biggest thing for me was stability. I didn't like the stability that I had come across, and then payload, being able to, put 2 or 3 big guys in a boat at the same time, because, my friends are big guys as well, most of them. And, we needed something that we could pilot really easily, that we could fit some big guys with all of our gear in it. I mean, I'm, fly fishermen, and we have more gear than we're ever going to use on any one fly trip ever, but we got to take it all. So I wanted something that we could fit all that in. I think that was the thing that drove me to try to find or build my own.
Yeah, and that really resonates, because I'll tell you, I grew up going to a grade school that was really outdoor focused. And then I got away from it. I got into playing sports and all that kind of stuff. And, I played football through college. So all my friends are big too. Most of them are offensive linemen. I played running back. So all my buddies were the O-line. So I got big buddies that need to get in the raft too. So I resonate with the fact that you got big friends. And really what got me back into it was doing a float trip in southern Missouri and going on a canoe trip with some of my buddies on the Current River and just having an absolute ball for the weekend. But every single one of us tipped and every single one of us dumped our gear. And, the game every year became, how do we keep everything waterproof? And now that Frank's got this great raft, we look forward to these incredible nights on the river. There's some really amazing places in Missouri where we can just stop right on the side of the river. It's not always available in every state. But we can camp right there on the gravel bars and bring, stoves with us. We can bring great tents or even cots and all kinds of stuff to help us keep comfortable in the outdoors. So the fact that you prioritize payload, we get to enjoy. So I appreciate the fact that was a priority when you were designing things. Frank, when you were picking out rafts, right, there were a lot of options out there. What was it that steered you in the direction of a river raft?
That's a great question. You know me, I like to analyze everything. And when I make a decision, that's it. I go with that decision and I don't look back. Before I get into like my decision criteria, I just want to say one thing. Bryan, it's one thing to have like really big friends. We got a bunch of big guys that go fishing with us in the Ozarks, but it's another to have friends that carry camera gear, stoves.
Oh yeah.
Huge coolers, way too many fly bags,
turtle boxes.
Yeah, now they came out with a grande, by the way. So,
that's why I like fishing with you guys back there, because you guys all eat on the river, all cook and everything, and it's a fun trip back, or where you guys are at. So
Mama's recipe book's always in the bag, so we're breaking it out. So one of the things that I noticed about the river rat rafts, and this is after my decision, but Bryan, you talk about stability. Well, I actually think the way that you guys design the raft makes it row easier. It's that stability also impacts your, how much effort you're putting into holding that boat in place when you got an angler in it. So that there's besides just the stability factor, I think kind of everything you integrated into the boat has led to it handling really well for rowers. And we got buddies like Ryan down south that they're putting 250 trips on that boat every year, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that was number one. I went out for a guided trip with Bryan Walker. We were down in the James River Basin area. I was pretty new to fly fishing, and I got into his boat, and I was like, man, this is it. Like, I need to be able to do this. But my experience in the raft, just the ease of fishing from the front and the back, it's roomy. It's safe. You feel pretty secure in the raft, even when you're going through rapids and big water, swinging a 7-weight around everywhere, But I went onto the website after Ryan made the recommendation, and I had an experience in the boat. And I was looking at, the price of boats, other comparable items. Oops. The price of boats. Duke's in here with me. The price of the boats, other comparable rafts in the range. The pro package and everything you get with it, I think was, comparing with the prices and just the functionality of that boat, it was the best. It was right in there, around my price point that I needed to be in at. It had all the best features, and the reviews of the raft was amazing. The only thing I felt like I was missing through the buying experience, getting to know Bryan, he was super responsive to my inquiries. And the only thing I felt like I was missing was like really good footage of the boat. And that's one of the first things we worked on when I got my raft was, hey, let's go build it right out of the box. And then Bryan and I took it out on the Green River. I flew out to Utah, and we filmed going down the Green. That
We've
thing's
done
not
that
for
a
the
couple
faint of heart.
times. Yeah. we did that on that fly-in on the upper green, so as well before. So
Yep.
yeah.
What a beautiful river that is, Brian.
Oh, it's phenomenal. So
And I can tell you from experience, for those that have listened to the podcast for a while, you may know that, I live in an RV full time, and my wife and I traveled the country, and I had the, good luck of stopping through Salt Lake City and then heading up to the Green River with some buddies. Shout out to Adam from Blue Line Fly Company for letting us borrow your boat. But I'll tell you what, we were in the smaller of his two rafts, and we got blown around. We didn't have big horsey dudes. We didn't have a lot of experience rowing in the boat. We stayed away from the kind of gnarlier sections, but we got moved around. So kudos to your boats kind of holding in those kinds of waters, because that's not the easiest stuff in the world. Frank, you mentioned there that, you went fishing with a guide. You had a really good experience in the boat. So that had kind of an influence on, you wanting to get a river rat. We've got a buddy, and I'm not going to throw, specific companies under the bridge, or under the bus, here, but we've got a buddy that made a similar choice recently. He went fishing with a guide. That guide has had a pleasant experience with his boat, so he decided, I'm going to buy one of those boats as well. It's been over a year, and he hasn't gotten his boat yet. And again, we're not here to throw them under a bus or anything like that, but as someone that started a company kind of from scratch, just building a couple boats here, a couple boats there, how hard is it to kind of manage the business when it's not your full-time gig? I don't imagine you just won the lottery and dumped like millions of dollars into this thing. I know we all wish we could. How much of this did you have to kind of manage over those first few years as you're kind of getting this thing off the ground?
There's been a lot of learning curves in our process for sure. And cause I've never done a online business or, a retail type of a business. And so there was a lot of curves to learn of just about that portion of it. But, we had some really good growth. COVID was actually really good for us. It kind of, we weathered the COVID storm, but when we came out of COVID, we just took off because people were ready to get out of the house, and get back. They weren't going, traveling a bunch still, but they were out in the water and it really helped us. And funny thing is that was that created a lot of challenges for us because we weren't even close for being geared up for that, so our inventory was always behind, and we were really struggling to make our shipping deadlines and things like that with trying to get parts in and get boats out. And we struggled. We did okay, but it was nice to finally catch up to that and be able then to get ahead of that. And so now I feel like we're back on this nice, growth climb that easily manageable and scalable to where, I can predict what, I have a better idea of what next week or next month is going to look like because we're more on this instead of this,
skyrocket.
Building 5 boats in a garage every month to doing 40 boats a month, and trying to get out of a 20 by 20 foot space and into our shop and scale up with equipment and people and stuff to accommodate that. It was tough. It was a ton of fun as well. I met a ton of people, and that's what's kind of nice about how small we are is that I still have some, touch with every customer that we have, at least to meet them, and get to know them as best I can. It's not like it was when Frankie got his boat when we were early days, but it's still, it's fun. It still have that family feel. But as far as a growth, it's tough, but it's been good, and we learned a ton, and I feel really confident with where we're headed now, and the growth is steadily climbing, again, and so I think it's been a good experience, but we did have some big challenges to learn, and hurdles to get over, which I think we've mastered fairly well.
When you got started, did you have any belief that it was going to go as far as it's gone, get as big as it's gotten? I mean, you've got hundreds of boats on the water at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an even larger number than that, but did you ever think that it was going to get this big?
At first I didn't, because we were just making them for friends and buddies and things like that. As soon as you make it into a business, that's the hope, right? That, I hope that this is just going to go, and it's funny because I kind of shifted my whole come from space with when we started the business, and I was really interested in more in creating a community of people that shared information, that shared fishing spots, that would help whoever, whenever. And we really started really putting a lot of effort into that. And Frankie was a big hand in helping us with that. Those first couple years, we did some fly-in stuff with customers and some cool trips, and really to try to create this core thing. And I always say we're trying to create a community and bring people together. And selling boats is how we do that. It's not necessarily about selling 1,000 or 1,000,000 boats. If they want to buy them, I'll sell them. But it's about the community. You know what I mean? And selling boats is how we do that, because everybody that has one talks to each other now on Frankie's website or Facebook page, or over the internet on our web page, or they can contact us. I'm not as easy to contact directly as I used to be, which I don't like, but that's inevitable as you get bigger. But they get to know my kids and my shop people really well too. So
it's Frank will agree with me that we have both really found this special place at T. Hargrove Fly Fishing in St. Louis, the shop that we both go to. And what's really special about that place is they've done exactly what you just talked about. They basically built a clubhouse, and we all go up there and hang out, whether you're going to buy something or not. And you go up there to have a beer or a cup of coffee, or just to see people, to say hello to people. You end up killing an hour between meetings or whatever it may be. It's luckily kind of right in the middle of town, so it's pretty convenient. But you end up buying stuff when you're there. Guess what? And it's been a smart business model for them. I don't know how intentional it was. They're just kind of those kind of people. But a wood burning stove with chili or a grilled cheese and a hot dog with a candle on your birthday goes an awful long way to making people feel welcome. And so the fact that you took that tact early on, it's so hard to do that in business, because you're drowning in just getting the thing going, to managing QuickBooks or whatever else comes with business, right? HR, and to spend the time and to be patient enough to really believe in building that community, I'm sure has paid dividends in the long haul. Frank, tell me, of the boat that you've now had time to live with. You talked about its row ability, right? The fact that it can really handle a wide range of water. What are some of the other features on the boat that you've just really kind of come to fall in love with, or things that you've added or adapted that have, really made you really love the boat?
Yeah, I think number one is the fact that I can just throw it in the back of my truck.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about getting your buddies together and bringing an experience to them, right? Because you have this thing. Well, how hard is it to go do that thing together? And the reality is, it's super easy. Like, I don't have a garage, right? I've got a shed, 14-foot shed in my backyard. We grab the raft, bolt the frame on it, toss it in the back of the truck, boom, we're on the road, Now, it's always nice when the boys come over and offer a little hand, but when I got to do it by myself, like, it's doable, that's huge.
And I'll share a little story on Frank. I apologize, but I'm going to embarrass him a little bit here. So in the days leading up to the delivery of his river rat, right, he's telling me all about this. I didn't get to fish in one before he got his. You see him online, all these kinds of things. And he's telling me, yeah, I got a 13-foot boat. I got a 14-foot shed. Everything's going to work great. We're going to, turn the corner. It's going to sit. We're going to pull it up in the air in the shed, and I'll put the bikes and everything underneath it.
Pulley system.
Everything's going to be great, right? So we get the boat in, and it goes together as easily as advertised, right? Like we get the thing figured out. It's really, pretty self-explanatory where all the pieces go. We get the whole thing pinned together, inflated. Everything's great. We get the boat, we turn the corner, we go into the shed, and Frank has a 12-foot shed. All right.
Surprise.
Or it's a 13-foot shed, but what it is, it's like a 12-foot-6 shed. And the way that his, river rat goes together is you've got about a 12-foot boat, and then you got a foot or two hanging off the back with the transom, right? Yeah. And so when the two are strapped together, it doesn't fit in his shed. But if you separate the two, both pieces do. And so, he was super pumped. I got this great thing figured out. It kind of hit him all at once. And he was like, oh God, this thing's too big. But because the two pieces are so easy to disconnect and to, manipulate, it really is no big deal. Like, I mean, he's able to move it in, like he said, one-handed, one person, move things around, bring the frame up into the air. The boat folds in half and kind of goes in a corner. It's really easy. Yeah. And like you said, Frank, I mean, you can move it across your backyard and up into your truck. You don't have some monstrosity of a huge truck. You've got a pretty standard short bed F-150, if I'm correct.
Yep, that's it.
And then you use kind of either it's a Yakima or some other brand. You've got an extension that comes out of your trailer hitch. Yeah. And then basically just goes up and makes kind of a T across the back that just it gives you another point where that boat's not, just totally hanging out there.
Yeah, it's the Yakima long, adjustable arm.
Yeah.
That thing, it's been bulletproof. Had the boat for multiple years now, and I think the only thing I did to it was just wrap some rope on it so that where the raft sits on the Yakima crossbar, there's a little bit of rope where the rubber hits. And I don't know why I did it. Probably didn't need to, but in my mind, I was like, let me customize this thing.
Why not?
Yeah. And when we go down the river, I mean, we've got Yeti loadout boxes on there with camera gear. We've brought, full-fledged Yeti coolers full of ice and refreshments or food. We brought Coleman stoves along to make fajitas or, any kind of number of different recipes on the river. We've loaded that thing up, especially kind of that rear, luggage rack as it's got on the back where a third, person can sit.
Or a spot
you got
for
some
a dog.
serious cargo space. Yeah. Or it provides a great landing spot. You could put some decked kind of material or some foam rubber in there. It'd be a great place for a dog. Yep. I've seen so many videos, and Bryan, you may have been kind of gritting your teeth as you heard me or Frank say the word boat. I don't know how faux pas it is to call rafts boats and boats rafts and so on.
I call it a boat. So
all right, cool. As long as it's good in your space.
If anybody calls you out, I'll just be like, "Hey, let's race." Guaranteed to be down the river.
Boat, I don't know. If it floats, it's a boat. That's what they have on all of our invasive species checkpoints. They have that on their billboards. If it floats, it's a boat, and you got to stop. So I feel, if the state calls it a boat, then I'm going to call it a boat. So.
I'll take that. That's a good way of looking at it. I've seen a lot of people talk about, getting a raft versus a hard side boat, especially as your first boat, is got some real advantages, right? In kind of forgivability and a number, transportation. You're not throwing a hard side boat, a clacker craft in the back of your, F-150 and cruising down the highway. What are some of the big core advantages for that first time boat buyer in getting a raft like a river rat?
For me or for
for both of you.
I've been in hard sided boats, and I like them. I love fishing out of a drift boat, and especially if somebody that knows how to pilot one, they're awesome. I can never knock a drift boat, except when I go to buy one and I look at brand new ones and they're $23,000, you know, for a cheap one. You know, used ones are more than that. But for just easeability, I don't have to have a trailer. You know, I can load it and unload it by myself if I have to. With, you know, me and my 13-year-old grandson back in the day, we could throw that right, and you know, he could help me. We could put it on a luggage rack. So those are big points. The other points is that I can get into such shallow water with this that, you know, and I can feel the bottom as it goes by, and it still floats. And so if I get into trouble and I need to go to the side, you know, I can still skirt around a lot of things in tight, and I don't have to worry about it. The other thing is that I can bang into just about anything as long as I don't take a root ball, you know, sideways, you know, in the middle of the stream. I can pretty much hit everything, and I can survive it. I can bounce off of it, or I can spin around it, you know, and I'm not damaging, you know, a big sided, you know, hard sided boat. So I like it for the safety, not even the safety factor, but just for the repair factor, that it's forgivable. That's the best way to put it. You know, if I get in the middle of something and I make a mistake and hit a rock, okay, you know, I can learn from it without then going, oh, and having to go, you know, re-fiberglass the side of the boat if I hit it hard enough. So I think because of the ease of transport and the forgivability and the ease of being able to learn how to row it, you know, a drift boat really I mean, if you can row a drift boat well, man, that's experience, and I mean, it's an art, really. I can't row a drift boat like I can my raft, you know, but I can send beginners to a lake in the raft, which they can load it, go out, and give them a couple things to practice, and then I feel confident that they go down, you know, most rivers. I wouldn't tell them go, you know, run category 3 or bigger rapids, but you know, they could go and take on most of the water as long as it's not super, you know, rough. And so the learning curve is much less. Easeability of transport, forgivability and durability to take a hit or to go in shallow water, and the learning curve on how to row it. Yeah. Those are so short that somebody can do that in a week, you know, and get on the water and feel confident that they can make it to, you know, to the takeout.
I can tell you that's what Frank and I did in his boat. We literally put it together. We threw it in the back of his truck. We're a couple of knuckleheads and figured out how to strap it in. Got over to his uncle's lake on the other side of the river over in Illinois, and it was a windy day, and we got this thing out in there, and within 15 minutes, Frank, you were cruising around pretty confidently, putting us where we needed to go. I was catching some bluegill on the fly, and we had a ton of fun, and pretty quickly got it right back out of the river, carried it back up the hill, threw it in the back of the truck, and we were back home. So yeah, that loadability, what roughly, you know, obviously it depends on kind of how they're outfitted. What's a river rat weigh kind of right out of the box?
Out of the box set up, without the anchor on it, you're going to be about 165 pounds. So, and then if you go fishing with Frankie and he adds all of dinner on there, then you're about 265. But
yeah,
it's about 165 pounds, give or take what else you add. You know, if you're adding a rear lean bar to it or fly rod holders or something, then, you know, it could increase it a pound here, pound there, but pretty close to 165.
Yeah.
Have you got any rivers that you have taken your boats on that you've either been really impressed with the way that the boats performed, or just kind of, you know, had those aha moments where you look around and go, I'm floating down this river in a boat that I made, that I created, that we dreamt up in a garage with some buddies? And, you know, have you had any of those aha moments where you just look up and go like, man, we're doing it?
Yeah. So I think I have that aha moment, you know, as far as, holy she's, I actually made this, you know, and we're out here fishing. I have that thought quite a bit just because it's cool for me. I go, if I'm in something that I made and I'm not, sinking it, it's perfect. I love it, but the I've seen our boats in so many different waters, and we when we were testing these, we had this boat on the Colorado River, and I was with a kid that helped do the CAD drawings of my helped me with the CAD drawings for our frame, and he happens to be a whitewater guide on the Colorado, and he took me on. So we built this frame and took this boat down, and I wasn't that great a rower. I could row flat water fairly well, and I might be able to get down the local canal. But we went down there on that, and he took us through some of the biggest rapids I've been in, and I was like, holy cow! And I was shocked that somebody, now granted he's a professional and he knows how to row this, but he put us in, we'd go into a swell and I'm like, oh, we are done. I'm fixing to go, and he'd do something. We'd pop out the other side and away we'd go. And I was shocked at the water that raft will take, and just in the hands of somebody who can really row it, they can row some great water. And we've had it on the Salmon River, and that's a big one for Idaho. Everybody asks, if you're in Idaho selling boats, has it been on the Salmon? If it hasn't, no, don't talk to me. But it's been on the Salmon, and made it all the way through and had great reviews. I've had beginners take it on the Green River and some of there, and they just love it. They feel comfortable and confident in it, even running, some class 2 rapids. I always get asked, what can this raft do? What is it rated for? And, we used to always say, oh, it's rated for class 3. And if you talk to, most other places that are building boats, that's what they're all, oh, it's rated for a class 3. And I've really kind of shifted my view on that. And I try not to will it take class 3? Yes, It will take class 3 because I can row a class 3. Can it take more? I don't know. What can you row? What are you comfortable rowing? And I've gotten out of where I ask people when they say, what category will it take? What category can you row? Because if you can row a class 5, I've seen it on a class 5. If you can barely row it across Grandma's Pond, then it's rated for Grandma's Pond. It's just it's an arbitrary deal. I've seen the boat maneuver, and it shocks me. And every time my buddy sends me pictures, and he's not a fisherman, he's a whitewater guy. He sends his wife down the river with all the gear in their 15-foot, 8-foot wide boat, and she shoots him running these rapids as just a single pilot boat on a river rat, and he loves it. And it's amazing. And that's the times that I go, holy crap, I can't believe that boat will do that. And then I feel pretty good that we actually, created something that can actually do that. So.
Yeah.
There's a couple of floors that you offer, Bryan. When you're going through big class 2, class 3, it'll take a little bit of water over the front, but you've got self-bailing option in the raft, and that, for water like that, you really want to make sure that that's the floor you go with. Those guys who are going through big rapids, they know they're going to take some water over the side. Yeah. I've got the non-self-bailing, right? So, totally enclosed floor. We don't take a lot of water over the front of the boat, most of the places I've got it in. And, if the heavens open up and it's raining 2 inches during the trip, grab a sponge or, just bail it out. It's no big deal. Sure. It's not like you got to flip the thing up and dump it out. We've never run into that. So there's 2 floor options. And I think that's a really unique thing about the raft, It
is.
I love it. And having been with you on some bigger water, going through Mother's rapid, there's Man, it's first of all, it's exciting. Like the whole thing's,
Sure.
you're out there for adventure, right? And you really feel like you're in an adventure. You're going down the middle of the river and you're surrounded by this beautiful place, and it's all there, you know. Um, and you can get it into places that you wouldn't believe. I mean, unimproved put-ins, the side of a cliff.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you've got the right ropes, send it. You know, it's light enough where a couple of guys can pack it in. We had it up in Wisconsin, and you know, the put into the river was a hike through the woods, basically. Cody and I grabbed a hold of that thing and hiked it in, and you know, there's no ramp there. So the places you can get in and out with these things is just, I think that's it for me. Like an inch of water, I'd love to have 3, but if I got to go through it, to your point, like you can literally feel the river bottom
Right.
as you're piloting and navigating. You really feel connected to the water. I love mine. I've got a trolling motor that we'll throw on. So talking about Grandma's Lake, throw a trolling motor on there. We wired it up, you know, and got a small battery, and we'll rip around the ponds with it, man, and
Yeah.
just, you know, crush ditch pickles all day. Or go muskie fishing with it. That's the next thing on my agenda, you know.
Speaking of go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I was going to say the non-river community, you know, that aren't taking it on the river, like mom and pop retirement. They, you know, have a cabin at the lake, or they park their trailer on the lake, or go from lake to lake, like, you know, and just travel around. That have these boats now for fishing, you know, everything. I've got video of trolling with them. I, you know, fly fishing out of them, you know, dropping bait off the sides, you know, with the motor on, or rowing. You know, it's amazing at how much, or how versatile, you know, it is at any time. Easy to get out of and into, I think, is why that's such a, I mean, I had my dad, who just on his 90th birthday wanted to go fishing, and I took him and my stepmom out, you know, on the lake by their cabin. They were able to just step in, you know, we were able to putt around, they caught fish, and then they step out, and they didn't have to help me load it or back the truck down. You know, it's just, yeah, it's funny how the still water, you know, people have really started to take off on this.
Speaking of adaptations, as Frank was talking, I mean, Frank's got about a 12-foot pole on the back of his for a GoPro and a bunch of other kind of wild accessories. Has anybody sent you any photos or videos of like any add-ons or adaptations that have really kind of either made you chuckle or made you go like, oh, that's pretty clever? Like, has anybody sent you anything that's really impressed you so far?
Well, everybody that sent me something that's impressed me, we're in the process of putting it on the boat.
Love
You
it.
know, and I've said that all the way along. You know, people are saying, "Hey, we need accessories. We want this. We want that." And I've always been open to, you know, ideas. That's the best way, right? Because I think of only what is important to me. You know, or I try to think of, well, how will that work for somebody else? But somebody else is going to look at it from a whole different direction. You know, and we've tried stuff that just doesn't work, and you know, and we just don't add it on, or you know, it works but it doesn't really work for a, you know, scalable thing, you know, a one-off here, or somebody wanted to add it. But you know, I've always said, man, send me your ideas, and if it makes sense, you know, we'll do it, and I'll send it to you, you know, send you one. But and so we have some stuff. We have a front casting deck that oh man, it's been a long time, and about 4 revs. I think we got it, and then we take it out, and I'm like, I'm not even getting on that, you know. And so we come back, and you know, and we redo it and revamp it. But I think we finally hit the ticket that it'll be on our new webpage here in by the end of the month. But it was, you know, it was a collaboration from about 5 or 6 people that saw us try something, and they were like, "Hey, have you seen this, or have you thought of that?" And no, we didn't. So we took a look at it and collaborated with them and made some changes. And you know, that's a lot of everything. Besides, even with the frame, people said, hey, it used to have a different configuration in the seats, and customers were saying, hey, that really, we don't like it because it's this or it's that. It makes it hard to see. What if you change this? And we changed the frame, and it actually was better, And
Yep.
so, as far as crazy stuff, I mean, there's not a whole lot of crazy stuff that you can really get on. I think I've tried probably more crazy stuff than I've seen. We tried to put an air fan on the back of one, and that was kind of fun.
Hey,
But
boys, watch this.
again, again, it was not feasible and not scalable. But we thought it'd be kind of fun to put an air fan on one and be able to use it for an ice fishing boat, in the middle of the wintertime. And we actually had a lot of fun and spent a lot of cold days walking back off the ice, dragging the raft, because of whatever reason. But I haven't seen a whole lot of crazy stuff, but fly rod holders. I mean, I've seen several different designs of those, and even I've had a couple designs that I hate. We finally landed on one that I really like, that we partnered with another company to build, Riversmith. I couldn't remember who it was for a minute, but and I really like that one. There's some things that I don't, but I really like it. But we're always trying to put other things on, but everything from boxes and reel holders or cup holders or things like that, little bags for putting your stuff in. Bryan Walker, who we mentioned earlier, came up and made a little tray that fits in the side of his rowing seat, that he throws a bunch of stuff in. That I have a prototype here that we're working on a design, that we'll put on the webpage. And so, I mean, it's been fun to see stuff that people come up with. And most of the time we're trying to, work with them to either, collaborate with them so that we can build it for everybody. But so Frankie may have seen more crazy stuff than I have.
We got a rotisserie spit that we've been trying to try out on it,
Why wouldn't it be something about cooking? That's one thing I like about Frankie. You never go hungry with him. He probably goes home. He goes home at least 2 pounds lighter when he comes fishes with me, because I'll throw beer and a sandwich, and maybe a yogurt on there, and that's about it. You go fishing with him on his boat, and man, he's got the fajitas going. So
that's clean living, Frank.
Yeah.
You hear people yell it from the woods.
Yeah, it's a founding principle of our fly fishing club that, I was a sports marketing major in college, and the kind of core principle of sports marketing is that you got to try and make the event something more than just the game, right? Because if you're the Chicago Cubs, and I apologize, I grew up in St. Louis, so I'll pick on the Cubs, but they sold out Wrigley Stadium for a long time without winning the World Series because going to a Cubs game was just fun. Right. It was just fun to be there. In the same way, we try to make a fishing trip just fun, whether the fishing is going to be any good or not. And one way to do that is to introduce some good food. We happen to have a couple of really good cooks amongst our group of buddies that have kind of leaned into it. So we've kind of leaned into it ourselves. And I think our waistlines have leaned into it a little bit as well. But, you got to be, a little conscious of that. Frank, when you think about, planning trips, going places with the boat, what kind of stuff do you kind of see on the horizon of places that you'd love to take the boat and, waters that you'd love to explore?
Yeah. I want to get out in saltwater. I really gotten into tarpon fishing and, chasing redfish. So I'd love to get it out in some of those situations, whether that's my own or somebody that's in the Facebook group, like, hey, drop a comment and let's go hook it up. We'll do a film and go try it out. But I mean, for me, we're within 3 or 4 states of home. That's all. Throw it in the back of the truck and let's go. If it's within a 6 or 7 hour drive, yeah, man, that's in scope. Where do you want to? What kind of fish do you want to go catch? We don't really worry about flows too much. I was musky fishing with a buddy a couple weeks ago, and Last time I was in that watershed, it was at 120 CFS. I caught my first muskie that day. The next time we went back was at 3,000 CFS. And the rat handled it beautifully. Like, we didn't even question it. We're like, oh, they've got they're running water, boys. So, strap in. And we just went out there, and I was like, oh, this isn't too bad, until we started casting. Actually fishing it was a little bit of a different story. But yeah, I mean, like, it's the answer is just add water. Like, go. You got the boat. How many times can you get it out this year? Teaching buddies how to row in that thing is really great too. You mentioned it before. We have a friend that is awaiting a raft, and it's like, man, when do you want to go learn how to row? Because it's, first of all, for folks that are new, and I think a lot of the folks that are buying these types of rafts are new to rowing. Like, you get in the row seat and everything's in reverse. It's like point at danger and row away from it. That's the opposite thing they taught you to do in a canoe. So if you got young kids, like, my kids are going to inherit my raft. I want my kids to learn how to row in that raft. And if they grow up to be guides running clacka crafts or whatever, they got pizza ovens in the Pavati, that's cool. But they grew up safe on the water. And that's a big thing for me, is like, we live in a place where the Ozarks are a couple hours away from home. When they're in high school, they're going to want to get out on the water, and I'm going to know that those kids are safe because I invested the time to learn how to do it myself, surrounded myself with a community of people that love being on the water, love these rafts, and go help their families experience that. Like, they're going to take off for that trip, and I'm going to be like, cool, shoot me a text occasionally. But other
There's
than
a
that, I'm
decent
not going to worry
chance one
about
of them. Yeah, there's a decent chance one of them says, "Hey, Dad, can I borrow the raft?" Right, and throws it in their car, right, or
It
throws it
used
on
to be,
their.
hey, can I borrow the truck? And now it's, hey, can I borrow the raft?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That building those kinds of relationships with friends. And I will tell you, Frank, you have been incredibly, generous with our club, with your friends, in taking people out, trying to get people that don't get the chance to go out in a raft and explore the kinds of rivers that you take them on. You've taught people to row, you've taught people to fish. So you've been incredibly generous with this awesome, I don't want to call it a toy because it's a lot more than that, but with this amazing thing that you've gotten for your family. And being able to get out and get your kids, that training and, show them how to properly put on a PFD, when they need to be wearing it, when it might be okay to be, a little bit freer. How to be safe around the water is a huge, huge thing, and it'll benefit them for the rest of their life moving forward. Let's kind of wrap up with this, Bryan. When you look at, the next 5 years, 10 years, where do you want to see this go? What would kind of be the vision for where this goes down the road? And then, you've touched on it a little bit. Obviously, we've been talking about it with stability and with the payload and with, a lot of the ability to load it. But, let's kind of close on, why it is that you think somebody would want to buy a River Rat if they're looking at all the boats. So let's kind of go with those two things.
Well, I think let's start with that one first.
Sure.
I think as somebody, I spoke with somebody tonight actually that just was. I've been talking to him for a day or two, and he had a bunch of questions. And he's a researcher, and a wife's a researcher, and they have all the points ever. And it boiled down to the fact that when he needed to talk to somebody and he called us, he got a hold of us and could talk to, right off the bat. He emailed and I answered. He called and he talked to my daughter who works in my office, and and then she sent me his phone number, and I called him right back. And so that there's good points in all the boats out there. As far as the safety, the payload, you can see we're family oriented, and I'm not. we'll build boats for anybody. But if you look at the people that are on our boats, it's family guys, it's weekend warriors. They got their grandkids, they've got their young kids on there or their dogs. And I think that it's with all the good points of why they should have a boat, the that the feel that they get of that we care about them, and because I care about them more than I do about selling a boat. I do literally, I would give up a sale of a boat to help somebody out if it just didn't make sense for them. I wouldn't push anything, because I'd rather them come back and collaborate with Frankie's group, or call us with ideas, or maybe it's not the right time now, but in 3 months it is the right time. And so I think it's that feel that really turns people on to us, is that we really try to be personable, have the best customer service, be available, and genuinely care about getting the right equipment into their hands. I don't mess around with, what you see and what I advertise at the price I advertise it is what you get. And I try to keep it affordable so that the everyday Joe can go. And when you get to the checkout, there's no hidden asterisks. There's nothing that, oh, well, that didn't come with this and it didn't come with that. And before I can even get on the water now, I'm already spending $1,000 more that I didn't know that I had to. People, I like that as a consumer. I hate hidden things, and so I don't do that. And I think that along with all the good points that we brought along or talked about through this last little while, is what really turns people on and makes them come over to River Rat for that.
Awesome.
As far as where we go, and I'm so open to that. I'm like the most laid back guy. I'd love to see us really hit a whole new plateau this year, that really allows, we get to a point where I can let my people run it more. My daughter runs my office, and I have my grandson and my son-in-law that work in the shop. And I want to leave that to them, and then focus on doing upgrades and new products and things like that. And I hope we can get to that. I made a big shift this year just here in the last couple of weeks, and step back from my day job and just doing a consulting role with them and do River Rat full time, so that I can really push us into the next level, and really work at just being meeting as many people as I can, and the bottom line, just having as much fun as I can. I don't look any further than that, as just having fun, and getting things moving so that the people that are my kids and whatnot coming up below can take this over and run it sometime. So,
Bryan, you are a good example of why business owners can be great people. I hear so many things that resonate with me just as a person. The fact that you're so customer service focused, and that you'd lose a sale over helping somebody get the right, kind of fit for them, the long-term vision of, hey, they're going to come back around when it's right for them, and I'm going to be here waiting for them with great customer service. That's so refreshing in today's business environment. So kudos to you, man. It's a humble and honest goal, and one that I'm sure you're going to see a lot sooner than you probably realize. And the fact that you want to leave something to the next generation is really amazing too. We've lost a lot of that, and it's great to see that people are building companies to give to the people that they care about. So,
sure.
That you're instilling a lot of really good habits and values in those people along the way. And like you said, if you get to work around the people that you love and you get to be with your family all day, probably not a bad way to have a good time.
No, that's the best day. The worst day on the river, fishing with my grandson is better than any other day that I can think of at work or anything, because I'd just soon float the river, even if I don't catch fish. Frankie and I, man, we fished our guts out. We only drove out two that trip we were on, but we
Until
sure
it,
had, and we
yeah,
got rained out, and it was. But that was
yeah,
one of the funnest trips of that year. Even as it started out so horribly,
yep,
about lost my front tire or rim, or the whole front axle went out on my way out there. But that's another story. But it's about having fun for me. I mean, I try to take it laid back and easy. I don't get wound up too much about things, and just kind of go with the flow. And I just want to have fun, and I want to take as many people with me to have fun as we can do.
yep.
That's very in line with our fly fishing club and kind of the ethos that Frank and I fish with. So
Yeah.
you're one of us, Bryan. We welcome you into
Perfect.
our world. Frank, anything to close with before we let Bryan get back to his evening? This was great.
I think just for the folks that are considering buying a boat, you're going to have, considerations of like all these future things you think you're going to want to do with it. Like, rod vaults. I want to do camera mounts. I want to do, which anchor should I get? Like, the other owners are out there ready to help too. I mean, Bryan and his family are incredible. They communicate and get a hold of them, but there's a huge network of river rat raft owners out there that are happy to help. We've got guys in the group DIY and rod vaults. I picked up the Riversmith Swiftcast for mine, and those things are lights out. I've loved them. Many guides starting to use those on the rafts with their trips. But like, we're out here, man. River Rat Raft Owners Facebook group. If you got questions, you want to talk to guys that are running 200 trips a year, or just the weekend warriors that are out there and they've had their boats for years and they're customizing them, go visit the group, drop a question. We're to Bryan's point, like, we're really transparent about why we love these boats, why we chose these boats and continue to. There's a lot of tough stories out there right now. Other raft companies just holding money, not sending boats, frame snapping. I was on a trip with a buddy, and he guides out of his boat, and the next day he sent me a text. He's like, "Hey, my whole front lean bar just snapped in half," and I was like, "Man, I don't think I ate that many burgers. Like, what happened?" But just the support. Like, if that were to happen to your raft, Bryan's gonna get in touch with you, and he's gonna drop ship, a replacement part, and you're gonna know when it's coming. I mean, I think that's the thing that's really important. And the best part of fly fishing or being out on a float is envisioning your next one. And I know before I got my raft, I was like, man, think about all the places I could go with this thing. And we've been doing that ever since it got delivered. So it's within reach. It's like half the cost of a nice camera. So if your buddy's into making fishing films and you want to make more films with him, well, get a raft, because you just spent half of what he did on a bunch of cameras. So it's and I'm very thankful for my relationship with Bryan. He welcomed me into the River Rat family. Flew out to Utah and did a trip with a bunch of amazing people. Some of every one of those guys that are on that trip, like, I'm in touch with. Some of them are my best friends in the world. And I think that speaks to why we like to be in the outdoors with friends, right? Being on a river with somebody, being in a raft with somebody for 8 hours is like a fast forward button to your relationship and getting to know them and building rapport and kind of getting to see how somebody sees the world, So for me, I mean, if you're in the market for one of these things and you're envisioning all those things, like, you can make it happen. Go do it, because time's fleeting. Never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, go spend the coin and get out on the river with your buddies.
Yeah.
Bryan, we'll end with you, but Frank, how do people find you and your channels?
Oh, thanks. Fish Hands Frankie on all the socials. YouTube channels out there if you want to see some videos. A bunch of the videos on the channel are shot with a river rat. If you want to see what that thing looks like when we got it all loaded down with gear, go hit the YouTube channel. If you're an owner or you're thinking about getting one of the boats, you want to talk to other folks, Facebook group River Rat Raft Owners. Drop a comment, say you listen to the podcast, and yeah. It's been really great spending some time with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Bryan, how about you? How do people find River Rat Rafts?
On social media, on Instagram, it's River Rat River Rat US on Instagram. They can go to our webpage, riverratusa.com. There's links on our webpage to our YouTube page where we have tons of videos and testimonials, from guides and owners. And so that's the two. And then, of course, YouTube, you go directly to YouTube if you want. That's the best places to catch us is our Facebook and our Instagram.
Awesome. Well, Bryan, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and thanks so much for hanging out with a bunch of your buddies and deciding to do something kind of on the hair of a dream, because it's provided with Frank and I a whole heck of a lot of happiness. So we're really grateful that you guys did it.
I appreciate the invite, and like I say, it's always a good time hanging out with you guys. I love hanging out with Frankie. We talk at least once a month, if not more. Hopefully we got some good news here in another few weeks that will be interesting if we can get a trip put together that he's going to go on with me. Well, not with me, for me. But that'll be fun to put on the Instagram and YouTube for sure.
Mind blowing.
So I'm hoping that we get to announce that. We're not going to right now, but I hope we get to do that here in another week or two. So.
Well, keep an eye on Bryan's website, riverratusa.com. There you can find all the boats, the accessories, and hopefully that new front platform that you were talking about in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye on the website.
Yeah. We're revamping our webpage. Our old one's still up, but the new one will have all the new accessories that we've got right now. We're working at trying to get that all loaded on there right now, so that because we haven't had it on the one that's up right now, but
gotcha.
The new one will have our front casting decks, our rear lean bars, the changes we've made to our trays, our upgrades that you can get, and fly rod holders and all kinds of things on there. So some swag finally, we'll get that on there as well. So come check us out in a couple weeks for sure. Check out the new website and new pictures area for that you can see what other customers and people are, what the community, I shouldn't say customers, what our community is doing, on throughout the year. So
awesome.
Lots of fun.
All right, Bryan Walker from River Rat USA. Thanks so much for stopping by.